few of the details of using this webinar software here. Once again, welcome to this webinar on email communication. We're going to discuss the 7 common email mistakes which we make or our friends make and ways to avoid them. Before we start, a quick one on the software we're using. We're using the GoToWebinar software, which is the most popular webinar system. And here you got a few things which we can do. First and foremost, there's a facility to show hands. So anytime we do a quick show of hands, as we do in a classroom, we can always raise a hand and I can know that you are saying yes or no. Then there's a facility to mark a query or a text box on that in case you can't hear me or you got a query or you want to discuss something, feel free to mark a query on that. So just to get things warmed up and started, all of you who can hear me clearly and who are able to see my screen, the title screen, please give a show of hands. All of you can hear me clearly and who can see my screen, please give a show of hands. There's a hand icon on your screen. You can click the hand icon and then I'll know that, okay, all is well and we're good to go. Okay, I can see a few hands up. And some of you who are searching for the hand symbol is right in front of you. It's an open palm. That's great. Couple of them were expected. Great. And apart from that, you can also see there is a text box in front of you, a text box wherein you can type anything you like, as in like anything you like to share with us. And through the text box, automatically, I can see your message and I can address it. That the text box is for you to communicate with me in terms of any queries, any concerns, or any difficulty, or any point you want to make, you can make through that. That's the only two things you need right now. And apart from that, we'll be running a couple of polls during the session today, and I just hope to make it very interesting and useful for you as we go by. Well, starting off on that, there are a couple of people, rather a few people joining us. Quite a few of you already there. Uh, Welcome again. This is Ashwini Kumar Kota, the Director of Excel Pro Trading Solutions Private Limited. And I'll be running the webinar today on this topic on 7 common email mistakes and ways to avoid them. Most of you might know my company, and for the couple of you don't know, I'll do a quick run on the introduction part, and we can go ahead into the program as we go by. First and foremost, we are a pure play corporate e-learning company. And when I say pure play corporate e-learning company, yes, we're in the business of e-learning and we do only corporate work. We don't do schools work and college work. So wherever there is an e-learning requirement in the company, we do provide them. So what kind of e-learning? Some of you might have seen the website and those of you have not. We are primarily into animation and game-based learning. So wherever there's a learning requirement, we create animations and we create games of sorts. We create the muscles and we can provide them to you to learn, where your team can use those animations and games to learn. Apart from that, we are also in the business of custom content development, which means if a company has got any content requirement, like suppose somebody is into, say, pharma, and they got a specific pharmaceutical training process or something on the factory, that training process can be converted into an e-learning program using various technologies and the instruction design techniques, which we have an expertise on. And we can give you a complete e-learning, which could be animation based or game based. It's all custom content development. Apart from that, just to give a brief physical location, we are based in Bombay and Bangalore, equally strong in both places in India. And we do have clientele spread across the globe. And as of today, I'm running this webinar based at Bangalore. It's a warm, sunny afternoon here today, and I hope it's the same in the other parts of the country and the world too. Going ahead, if you would like to know anything more about us, like to know more about what we do, how we do, like to explore our games and activities, you can take a moment and visit us at excelprotraining.com at any point of time or mark me a mail. I'll be more than happy to be of assistance for you. On this quick introduction, now that you know who I am and what company I run, we'll proceed to the topic of today's webinar, that is 7 common mistakes what we make and ways to avoid them. A very important aspect to be considered is, why did I choose this topic? Just to give you a precursor, I keep running webinars almost every fortnight on various topics. And why do I do that? Well, it's more of a habit, because over the last 10 years, personally, I have been involved in consulting, coaching, and training. Another firm of mine, which is called Synergia Consulting, specializes in transforming SMEs, that is small and medium enterprises. And we do a lot of training programs in that. We do a lot of business consulting and executive coaching also. And while I've been working on it, there are about 60 odd topics which we have mastered, and those topics are there on the website. And every fortnight or so, I take one topic and I tend to do a webinar on that to connect with audience, to discuss things, and to see how best we can make things better for us and for the people around us. Now, email is something which we use day in and day out. And today, if you look at the day since morning, I'm sure all of you have at least replied to 10 emails, written 5 emails, scrapped 4 emails, seen 4 junk mails. And even if you've done nothing since morning, you've done something with email. It is not avoidable. Even if you want to, if you're in business, you cannot avoid email. Why is it so? In pure terms, it is just memos. So if you're in business, you have to communicate. If you have to communicate, emails are the best form of communication. And whenever we do something, जैसे हिंदी में कहा जाता है, आप अगर कभी कुछ करेंगे ही नहीं तो आपसे कोई गलती होगी ही नहीं. So if you don't do anything, there's no chance of making a mistake. But if you do something and you happen to do something regularly, the probability of making mistakes is absolutely there, by choice or by chance. Either ways, if there is a probability of making a mistake, we want to know which are the mistakes which are dangerous for us, which happen accidentally, or which happen because we just never knew that it's a mistake. We've been doing it all our lives. So those mistakes are very dangerous. They cost us dearly. And the worst case in email communication, which I've come across it with people day in and day out, it's just that people don't even know that they made a mistake. I'll share some examples with you as I go by. And sometimes we feel okay, the person who is learning email for the first time makes a mistake. It's not like that. I've seen CEOs, MDs, general managers, vice presidents, people in very good positions and people in place of power making email mistakes. And it's very embarrassing because it's like wearing a brown belt and a black shoes. As long as you don't know they're supposed to match, you can be very happy wearing them, but we look like clowns to people in front of us. So to avoid doing that, I want to do something on email mistakes. And then when I went to look at them, there were a whole bunch of them. I was going on counting 20, 30, 40, and I realized there's no point trying to address all of them. Let's do a quick ABC analysis. And that's what I've done. I've done an ABC analysis, and those mistakes which could cost us dearly or which are costing us dearly and the implications are high, I've taken 7 such mistakes and I'm going to share those with you today. And the webinar is being recorded. I'm going to place it on our LMS after some time. And even if you're not able to connect with me or you're in thoughts or you would like to ponder over them later on, you can always, we'll pass on the links to you. You can always go back and check upon the LMS. Coming back to the email mistakes. Now, the first and foremost mistake we can talk about, mistake number one is improper subject line. Improper subject line. Sounds funny, but it's that dangerous. Now, when I'm talking of improper subject line, it so happens that more often than not, we don't write good subject lines. So, on this quick note, I'm going to take a poll from you and let's see how we fare on subject lines. Okay, here's a poll just launched on your screen. All of you can see a poll over there. There's a question. Do you draft appropriate subject lines? Always, sometimes, new mails only, no. There are certain options. You are required to click on the appropriate option so that we all will know what's the kind of percentage of people we are normally. Okay, about 60% have voted. Pretty good. Interesting. The scores are interesting. Few more are yet to vote. Great. I'm going to close the poll in another 10 seconds now. And those of you are figuring out, the question is very simple. Do you draft appropriate subject lines? क्या आप सही तरीके subject lines draft करते हैं? That's a question. And I think almost all of you voted now. Great, fantastic. On this note, I am closing the poll. And the results are very interesting. I'll just share them with you. Okay. The results on your screen, 60% said yes, 40% said yes sometimes, 0% says no new mails only, and 0% says no. That means I've got a very enlightened crowd with me today. Congratulations, because the real results are something else altogether. In reality, all you have to do is open your inbox and look at all the mails you've got today, and you know the answers. You'll realize that more often than not, the subject lines are anything what they can be. And on that note, I'll of course share a couple of examples. Before that, why do we make mistakes in subject lines? The reason why we make mistakes in subject lines is just that we don't pay attention. Why we don't pay attention? Because we are so focused on what we are going to communicate in the email that we really don't care much about the subject line. I'm going to share a particular mail with you. Take a look at this. There's some forward mail came from somewhere. I'm just taking junk mail so that nobody's offended. There's no problem on that. Okay, if you look at this mail here in front of me, in front of you, what do you see here? We got fired up and ended with a big bang. Now, when I see a thing like we got fired up and ended with a big bang, can you see this here? This is a subject line. And when I see this mail here, and if I don't happen to see the entire mail, if it comes this way, right? Now, and I take a look at it, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to understand the email, or am I supposed to figure out who got fired up, who got banged up, what happened, God knows what? Now, that is one such example, a classic example of writing inappropriate subject lines. Now, a subject line is extremely, extremely important and many a times it's neglected. My request in this case is do not neglect the subject line. And how do you do it? Very simple. Whenever we're writing a message, it is like the face of the message. We need to always ensure that if we wear a shirt and a trouser, they match. Subject line always needs to match with the content of the mail. If we are writing a mail to somebody and we take an old email and quickly forward it off with because the mail ID was there, or no, the subject line is a total mismatch. It has to be short, concise, and to the point. Now, for this, one doesn't need grammatical skills. You just need to write the appropriate words in the subject line. For example, again, let's go back to my mailbox here. If you look at, there's again another forwarded mail which I've got. I think it's one of those promotional mails. A company here is saying the only plan with terminal illness benefit. Now, automatically, it talks about a plan, it talks about terminal illness, it talks about benefit, and only. Moment I see this kind of a subject line, uh, whether it's a marketing mail or a regular mail, the subject line is complete. It's absolutely complete because I know whether I should click it to open it or I'm not supposed to click it. I know exactly what the mail is all about, and it helps me take a decision immediately. So, such subject lines which are concise, to the point, and are able to give a message exactly what the content of the mail is all about are beautiful subject lines. Try to write them that way. Sometimes some of us have a tendency to write extremely urgent, very important, please see immediately. Now, these kind of a words could be very dangerous. Why dangerous? Because words like free, urgent, important are commonly used by spammers or so-called marketing people who don't know what else to do. So they take one email message and thrash it out to all the mail IDs they can lay their hands upon. So what some of the spam filters do is they catch all of these words and they'll put your mail in spam. Many times it happens that we see our mails in spam folders long after the purpose has been defeated. So if you would like your mails to be seen at the right time by the right person without going into a spam, always avoid unnecessary words like urgent, important, free, etc. Stick to the point. And a subject line always gives the message of conveys a professional message. So if you write a good subject line, the probability of you being seen as a professional person and your mail being open and read in the right light is always higher. And if you don't know what to expect from a person, you should not be writing mails, which means use expressive and compelling subject lines. Be specific, to the point, and express clearly. All said and done, a very important problem which comes here is about English. Many times it so happens people say, look, I don't know English so well. I'm not so good in English. So what am I supposed to do? I said, don't bother. As long as you know what you want to write, forget the grammar, put the words, and more or less you'll get your point across. Nobody's trying to become an English professor here. You just have to do your business well, write good lines, and move on with it. It's that simple. However, while writing a subject line, if you make a mistake, one, your mail could go to spam. Two, if your mail doesn't go to spam, the probability of the other person not paying the right attention to your email because he saw the subject line, got ticked off, opened the email, oh come on, drop it, and the whole thing goes into trash. So one, it is inappropriate. Two, you could lose your mail to spam. Three, it can be seen as something which is very unprofessional and could reflect on your image. On this note, let's take a quick check. Are we all clear on subject lines as to it being the number one mistake we make while we are writing emails? So I covered a few points here. So if you're very clear about it, give me a show of hands. And if you have a query on that, quickly post a query in the text box and I'll answer it immediately. Great. I see some hands coming up. That's great. I think most of you are clear. If any of you have a query, type in a text box and we'll address it as we go by. If no queries, you can raise a hand. Fantastic. That's good. Very good. We move on now. Before we proceed further, there seems to be a query. Let me just take a look at it. Okay, nothing yet. Going ahead. Before we proceed further, I've got a very interesting aspect to share with you. पता सबको सब कुछ होता है, करता कोई कुछ नहीं है. That's the beauty of email. When you go through this webinar with me today, you will realize that there are a lot of points. हाँ ये तो पता ही है. Yes, we know it. We all know it. All is well. But the interesting point is everybody knows what is to be done. But at the nick of time, because of an urgency, because of some emergency, because of lack of interest, because of whatever, it so happens that we all tend to make these mistakes. These are mistakes which happen because of either carelessness or because of certain other priorities which play havoc on us. So even if you know the point, let us concentrate upon how to get these points taken care of. While we're at it, there's a question. Okay, there's a question from Praveen Suman. The question is, many times we are not sure what to give subject. Perfect. Now, this is a very interesting point because you know what to write, but you don't know what subject line to put in such a case. If that's a problem which you're facing, the answer is very, very simple. Be clear what you want to write. Go ahead and write the mail. Finish writing the mail. From that email, if you can pick out the key words, what exactly is the message you conveyed, the key words, copy paste the words in the subject line, three or four of them, then automatically you'll see the line forming. For example, if I request a leave, I'll write, Dear sir, I want leave for so and so days, etc., 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 to go for my sister's wedding, for to Nainital, and so on and so forth. Well, Nainital is not important. Other things are not important. What is important is leave. Take the word leave, paste it in subject line. Request. You can't order your boss, you have to request your boss. So that way, put those three, four words, and more or less automatically, you will get your framing of sentence easily. There's another query here. Oh, okay. Very interesting query. There's a query from Husna Sadia. Can subjects be written in caps? Never, ever. Mark my words, never, ever. Caps means purely shouting. That's it. If you don't intend to shout at anybody, never ever use caps in a subject line or a body text or in anywhere in the email. Caps should always be avoided. Many a times we are tempted to use caps, thinking कि caps matlab it is more bolder, more brighter, more interesting. No, in email, capital means shouting. If you want to shout at somebody, use capitals. If you are not intending to shout, don't use capitals. Hope I'm clear. Okay, there's another query. Okay, there's one more query from Supriya. Should the subject line be a sentence or a phrase? Supriya, very clearly, a subject line, if you can form a sentence using about 5 or 6 words max, or maybe seven, uh, form a sentence. If you're unable to form a sentence, a phrase is good enough, as long as the collection of words are able to convey a message. Now, it also depends upon the situation. If you're writing to somebody superior, you would be very careful and polite in the choice of words. If you're writing to somebody on a casual note, the words are important. The the adjectives and prefixes can be adjusted. I mean, because it's a casual mail. However, in all business communication, one, while writing subject lines, avoid long sentences. Very long sentences in subject lines, not happening. Apart from that, sentence is complete or a phrase, both are fine. There is no concern on that. Be comfortable as long as you are not miscommunicating. The risk of miscommunicating is always there. So read the subject line once. As long as it's not miscommunicating, a phrase or a sentence, both are absolutely fine. Hope you're good. Great. Moving ahead. Next point. Here we move to the next point, which talks about the tone of the message. Once I've written the subject line, the next most important thing is the tone. Why the tone? Well, you're writing a mail, but the other person is reading the mail. And whenever we're reading something, you'll realize that we read as if we are talking to somebody. Now, when you read a mail, you are actually creating an imagination, you're creating a flow. If you receive a mail from me tomorrow, hi, how are you? Hope things are fine. And then I write something about whatever I want to talk to you about. After reading, hi, how are you? Hope things are fine, automatically you're in a good mood. Straight away, if I jump to the point without putting the pleasantries in place, it so happens that the connect is broken and the right essence is not brought out. So to bring the right flavor in the other person's mind, it's always important to use pleasantries, what we call as salutations, etc. And more importantly, the tone of communication. Now, when we talk about a tone, all of us have learned about letter writing when we were children. We all have gone through letter writing examinations in English and so on and so forth. Similar thing holds good in email, but in a much more shorter fashion. How does it happen? When I'm writing a mail to a boss requesting for, say, a permission to take the day off today. Now the tone has to be of a requesting note. वो खटक नहीं सकता है. What we call it can't be harsh. Now I'm going to show you a little example here where the tone is something I would like you to take a look at. Nothing wrong about it. Okay. Here is a mail I got from somebody. Hello, sir. I was expecting a feedback on the trial assignment that I had sent you. I would like to know the decision that you have taken, as I haven't heard from you since then. Now, look at the tone here. He is a gentleman who has met me for some reasons, and then he's gone back and he was expecting something as a feedback, etc. If I look at this mail, I can be imagining that okay, the gentleman wants a feedback because it is saying feedback, but is he requesting a feedback? Is he expecting a feedback? In this case, he is not requesting a feedback. He is I am expecting a feedback. You better give it to me, right? And I want to know what decision you've taken, as I haven't heard from you since then. How come I've not heard from you? Now I don't like this tone, and no points for guessing what happened to this candidate. Now this is an offense which is committed unknowingly, accidentally. Such things happen in business emails. Now, when we write a mail, here's a gentle reminder mail, as I haven't heard from you, I did something, I haven't heard from you, I would like to know from you. But by the tone, it doesn't seem so. Accidentally, the person has used a tone which the person should not have used, and the person would have paid dearly for such a thing. So, that is something which we always want to avoid. And on this note, I think there's a little query. Let me take a look at that. Okay, the couple of queries more appearing from Praveen Suman on subject lines. Many times we know that subject, but due to same or other reason, we can't mention. Okay, very interesting question, because if you're talking of something very confidential and it is such a thing that you cannot mention in the subject line. Now here is a catch to it. What cannot be mentioned in the subject line cannot be mentioned in the email either, because you write the email and the recipient sees the email, of course it goes through a server, etc. So what cannot be mentioned in the subject line cannot be mentioned in the email either, and if it is not mentioned in the email either, what's the point of calling it a subject line? Example here. Say I am the HR manager of a company and I've seen that the one of the employees has committed theft. Okay. and I want to bring it up to the notice of the CEO of the company, and for whatever reasons better known to me, I have to write a mail. Now, can I write a mail, theft committed by Mr. So and so in the company? I can never do that because the emails pass through servers and there could be the possibility of a systems admin or somebody taking a look at it. Dangerous, not the risk. Now, in such a case, a very important question is email the right option? If you choose wisely, email is not the right option. But if for some reason you write an email, you just need to make a note, observe theft in the company, need to discuss with you, or need to discuss a theft in the company. In the mail, also in the body, you will write the same thing. I have come across a theft in the company, which I've seen by myself, and owing to confidentiality reasons, I can't discuss over the mail. Can you give me an appointment to come and speak to you in person? Fair and simple. So, what is the body of the mail? It is talking of a theft, and you want to meet the person and discuss with him. Now, the same message needs to be conveyed in the subject line also. So that way, if you see, there will not be a situation where you're writing a mail and the subject line is not supporting it. Okay, subject is missing in this mail, any reason? Now you're referring to which mail? Let me take a quick look at that. The mail I showed you. Okay, this is the subject line here. Test inquiry subject line. No, it's not missing. This is a subject line here. The gentleman chose to wrote two words, and I suppose it's their choice on this. Now going back into our second mistake, tone of the message. When we talk about the tone of a message, we need to be very careful about what we are typing, how we are typing, or the same examples can happen for you. As one of the participants had just mentioned about the capitals, here is the point for you. Whatever happens, do not use capitals in your emails, not in subject line, not in heading, not even your name in the signature. I've seen some people writing their names in bold capitals. Yes, you love your name, we appreciate that, but keep it simple, keep it polite, we like it more. Whenever we're replying emails, it's very important to choose the tone matching the tone in which the person has replied the email, has sent the email to us. For example, if I've got an email from a boss saying send me the report immediately, I cannot just write okay. I have to write, dear sir, sure, I will send the email by so and so time. So when we are writing an email, write it as if you are talking to the concerned person. Is it formal, is it informal? If it's formal, keep it short to the point. Emails are always there to stay. This is something I keep on repeating, but people seem to forget it. Emails are there for eternity. We may die, but emails don't need to die, they can live forever. So when you write an email, ensure that you're always polite and you are writing emails in a manner that you don't regret it for the rest of your lives. So always, as a habit, write polite emails, it's helpful. The third mistake which we make, which we tend to make more often than not, is not including email thread in your reply. Now, this is something which happens accidentally. But what is an email thread? Suppose you and I are exchanging mails constantly. You write an email, I reply to you, you reply back to me, and we're constantly writing emails. Now, when we are doing that, if I suddenly remember after 10 days, okay, this gentleman written a mail, I have to come back to him. I quickly surf in, open, try to check a mail, I don't find a mail, I write a new mail. Avoid doing that. If there is a conversation happening between you and somebody, ensure that you maintain the thread in the reply always. So when the person looks down, the person knows the sequence of communication, sequence of events, what you're communicating upon. Second very important thing in this case is that what if, say we exchange mails today, we exchange 3 4 mails and then we forgotten each other. After 3 months, for some reason, you need to communicate with me. And the reason is not the reason what we exchange the mails for today. And you suddenly take up your mail browser, pull up the old mail, type in the mail and send it to me. Never do that. This is one mistake I see it repeating very often, very often. Now, what is the big idea of taking an old mail, putting a reply on it, and writing some content? And the subject line I get is reply of some antique mail. The content is something else, thread is something else. It miscommunicates. If it is a new topic, write a fresh mail. If it is an old topic we're discussing, always maintain the thread. So, pointers here: choose reply in case there is a sequence of a sequence happening. Otherwise, a new mail. Skim through previous emails to refresh yourself. So whenever you reply, you should be very careful in replying because I'll give you a classic example. Many times we send price quotes, and once you quote a price, then after 3 months the same inquiry comes again. Your prices have gone up. You give a different price altogether. And if you don't go through the past mails and you don't justify the reasoning, you might look like a fool to the client who will think you're giving a new price every time you speak to him. Such mistakes happen. I've seen them live. Next very important mistake, which almost all of us have committed at some point of time or the other, is the very lovely reply all. Just because there's an option on our mail browser doesn't mean we should exercise it without using caution and discretion. A reply all only means that you have an option to reply to all who have been marked in a mail to you. Suppose I write a mail to you and I put a CC to 4 people. Reply all would mean the mail would go to all the people marked in 2CC, etc. on the particular email. On this note, I think there's a query. I'll take a quick pause this one. Okay. There's a request to show the previous slide. Well, I'll be breaking the toe in case I do it. However, the entire recording is available for you online immediately after this webinar, next couple of hours from now. So that will help you to connect back on it. I'm really sorry. I'll complete this else I'll lose time right now. Going ahead. When you talk of a reply all, imagine that first thing is you receive a mail which CCs to few people. What is the need for you to reply all? That need has to be very clearly ascertained. If your need is clear, reply all is appropriate. But almost 50-60% of time, if you have noticed, reply all happens in email fights, ego clashes over the email, which is very common in most companies. All of us have seen at least one instance of an ego clash, one instance of people using reply all and bashing each other left, right, center, and in the CC, whoever is there, for some time it's fun for them, after some time it's painful. So, how and when should you use reply all? Let's take a look at it. If you received a group mail and you are expected to reply, like suppose somebody has marked CCs to you and you expect to reply to all of them, yes, reply all, use reply all, but be very careful that sometimes in the browser, the moment you click reply all the names go into the to section. They go into the to section, but you're addressing one person. You will need to drag those emails out of the to section and put them in the CC or BCC as you feel appropriate. If you're lazy, it could be painful for you. Choose only reply instead of reply all if the other people need not be bothered about what your communication to the person is. Just because somebody has marked CCs to some other people doesn't mean you need to mark the same too. You can choose to just reply to the email. As a caution and discretion, always use reply all only when necessary. हाँ करना ही है, जरूरी है, very important. There's no other go, else avoid it. A quick question here. Okay, there's a question from Gopinath. While replying mail, highlighting the earlier content in red color is correct or not? Well, Gopinath, technically, I'll answer it in a specific way. When you're replying an email, we tend to highlight certain sections of the previous mail to bring it to the notice of the concerned person. Ki, yes, I'm replying in context to this mail. And it also happens that sometimes people ask us queries. They ask us queries. Please send me the following information, the following details, point one, point two, point three, point four, point five. What we tend to do is we reply to the mail, and under those points, we give the answers at that point of time. So, highlighting is not bad, it's absolutely fine as long as you are very clear on why you're highlighting and which sections you're highlighting. If you're not highlighting sections but the entire mail, no, it's not right. Highlight only specific facts which you want to want their attention to come to, and to which you're directly replying. And in the reply, please mark, kindly note or look at the highlighted section, and ensure the person's attention is drawn to the highlight. Otherwise he or she will not know why you highlighted the point. Hope it's clear. Great. Going ahead, I was talking on CCs, so here we come to CCs here. Reply all, a cousin of reply all is CCing the world. Some of us are so much in love with CCs that we take every moment to mark a CC to everybody. And in the Facebook generation, even if we sneeze or we cough, we tend to ensure that 10 guys know around the world that, okay, I just coughed twice. I am boarding a flight. My flight is late by 5 minutes. And similarly, when you mark a mail, I'll mark a mail to somebody and I'll CC to everybody whom I think need to know that I'm doing something. And I've seen companies, since I consult and train in companies, I've seen companies where employees mark CCs just to inform other people, like, look, guys, I'm here, I'm working. Okay, if that's the case, it's bad. It's really bad. CC has got a very specific purpose. CC stands for carbon copy. Carbon copy. This terminology has been borrowed or has come down from the days of the memos, where memos used to be typed or handwritten, and there used to be carbon copies sent to various people with FYI. Suppose I'm writing a memo or a letter to a certain somebody, a copy had to be marked to another somebody, and that copy was for his or her information only, and it used to be filed. Because in emails we don't have a filing mechanism, they're being abused. So CC is only CC people who need to be informed of the particular action, but they are not required to act upon it. Ways to avoid? Very simple. If you don't know why the person should be in a CC, don't put the person in CC. So there are always two kinds of people to every email. One, rather three kinds. One, a person to whom you're addressing it to. There's a call for action. अगर मैं आपको कुछ मेल भेज रहा हूँ तो आपसे कुछ expected है. Either do something, talk something, write something, take a decision, some action. So the my mail is always marked to somebody, the intended recipient in this case. Now, along with the intended recipients, certain other people might be required to know about this communication or the attachment or that you have communicated, or as per protocol, there might be reasons for it. In such a case, you need to mark a CC to those people with a clear reason. And there might be certain people who need to know, but the intended recipient need not know about that person being marked. In that case, your marker, a BCC, is also called a blind carbon copy. Like the reply all, BCC is also a very dangerous tool. 99.99% there's no reason to use a BCC in today's communication, so try and avoid it. Usually 2 NCC is sufficient, and many times the people get confused, should I mark a BCC or not? I tell there's a better way to do it. First, write the mail to anybody you want to write the mail to, then take that mail from your sent mail and forward it to the person you want to send it to, and write why you want to send it to him. So instead of BCC, write a mail and forward the mail to the person. So if I write a mail to Mr. A and I want to put a BCC to B, and I don't want A to know that B is in the loop, why all the drama? Write a mail to A and finish off. Then take that mail, forward it to B. In that, write a different subject line. Tell B why you're sending the mail to him, and the matter gets closed. That's simple. Okay, I seem to have a query here. Let me take a look at it. Okay. Praveen, by chance, I deleted your query. It got accidentally deleted. Can you mark the query once again? Till then, we'll proceed with the CC. Next thing is proofreading what you wrote. Now, this is something which all of us preach. We preach a lot. We all tend to preach a lot. Before that, there's a quick query from Praveen. I'll take a look at it and then we proceed to the proofreading part. Reply all not clear while we are receiving mail within two company, but within a company we can make it clear. Praveen, right now I am not clear about this message. Uh, I'm, I'll try to answer this by making some assumptions. Reply all not clear while we are receiving mail within two company, but within a company we can make it clear. I'm not sure, Praveen, what you're communicating, but just to put a point here, reply all, very simply put, when you click reply all, ensure that the mail is marked only to the person to whom you're marking it to, and everybody else is in a CC, and you know very clearly why the person is in the CC. That should take care of it automatically. Okay, a quick query as of now, rather quick poll. Let me do a quick poll with you and you'll enjoy it as we go by. I put a poll up here. When do you proofread your mails? All of us, if I ask you, do you proofread your mails? Everyone says, yes, I proofread my mails. The question is a little tricky here. Honest to a heart, when do you actually proofread your mails? Be frank here. I won't know your names. I only know the numbers here. Interesting. Quite a few of you voted. Couple of you are yet to vote. Go ahead. Be truthful. It's fun. It's interesting. Okay, another 5 seconds. I close the poll. Make your decisions fast. Okay, that's great. I think almost all of you voted. Here I close the poll and here I share the results. Interesting. 27% of you have said emails to superiors and clients only. 18% sometimes when in doubt. 55% always. 0% never. As I had said earlier, this is a very intelligent team we got here today. However, the normal statistics are quite different. You will find that almost 50 to 60% people rarely bother to proofread, and the remaining ones proofread only when their tails are on fire, as in when they are writing a mail to a customer or a client with some facts and figures about some pricing, or when they're marking a mail to their boss and they know if they mark a stupid mail, they get hammered. So these are the realities of life. However, what I need to point out here is your email is on display the moment it crosses your mail browser. So, at any point of time, when we have a situation where marking a mail, a composed mail, we need to mandatorily proofread it. If you don't have time to proofread your mail, why should the other person even bother about reading your mail? जिस चीज को आप खुद नहीं पढ़ना चाहते हो उसको दूसरा आदमी क्यों पढ़ेगा? Why will the person read it? It's a pretty interesting point at that. On this note, let me see if there's certain queries here. Okay, going ahead. Always, if you don't have time for your email, the intended recipient doesn't have time for it either. So as a good habit, now whenever we leave our house, we make it a point to look at ourselves in the mirror once. It's not because whether we are the most beautiful or the most smartest intelligent beings on earth. It's just that, am I okay, or have I unknowingly made a stupid mistake? Has Is there an ink blot on my shirt, or have I forgotten to comb my hair? Why? It's not because I'm going on a ramp modeling, the what do you call it, a modeling ramp kind of a thing, but more importantly it's just that I don't want to look stupid. That's it. So if we can take care to look good, our emails also should look appropriate. So if you've written 5 lines, spend 5 seconds to read it. It's worth it. It'll avoid or prevent you from making a stupid unintended mistake. And many times The most dangerous part, which I really dread myself, is the today's email browsers. The browsers have got these additional features nowadays by which you get word wraps and auto text and all those things. So I'm trying to write something, I'm going on writing something, but when I look back, while typing, somewhere auto text is taken over and certain word has been formed, and the word is not what I wanted to communicate. And the word happens to be a stupid, funny word, I could be in trouble automatically. Always review and edit what you've written. Only when sure, send it across. No need to say this. Now, these are the kind of points for which I always keep saying, "Pata sabko sab kuch hai, karta koi kuch nahi." Now, how can I get people to read their emails? Well, there is no better way than to scare them. If you look at the mail I showed you some time back of a gentleman who had sent an email to me requesting me for a feedback on something, had he read the email once and realized, okay, when this gentleman reads this mail, is he going to reply to it? He probably would not have sent that mail in the first place. English is very important. Grammatical errors and spelling errors are always dangerous. We have spell checks in our browsers these days. Go ahead, use a spell check and make a little effort. It's worth it. Last point is emailing in anger. Emailing in anger. When I talk of emailing in anger, the reason I paused was I'm tempted to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask it now. How many of you have at least once emailed somebody in anger? Please give me a show of hands, frankly. How many of you have at least once emailed somebody in anger? Emailed or replied to an email, email thrashing, email fights? That's good. Lovely. We've got a very honest team today. A very honest team. I really appreciate that. Rarely we find somebody. I mean, if you look at yourselves, somewhere, kahin na kahin, all of us have at some point of time have thrashed somebody or have given an undercurrent to somebody over the email. It's natural human instinct. I mean, I appreciate all the raised hands. Pretty good. Thank you very much. On that note, emailing in anger happens not because you want to email in anger, because the person who wrote the email in a tone which brought out the worst in you. More often than not, the replies to emails are the ones which are worse. Somebody writes a nasty mail or an email which has got a nasty tone to it. Like the mail I showed you some time back, the gentleman had written the mail, but if I'm misinterpreting it, I could write a nasty mail to him, thinking, "What's your problem? I'll reply back when I reply back. I'm so and so." It can happen. Now, more often than not, misinterpretation is one big reason why we end up writing emails in anger. So, the answer is emailing and anger don't go hand in hand. You need to either email professionally or enjoy your anger. You can't do both. So, how do you do it? It's very simple. If you're angry, go ahead, write an email, draft it. उससे क्या होता है, भड़ास निकल जाती है. Whatever you have put up till your neck, it comes out. Because if you speak about something or write about something, you feel light. So go ahead and draft the mail. But there's a fantastic facility called Save Draft in all our mail browsers today. Just save the draft, don't send it. Don't send it. Why? Because when you send it, it is no longer your property. The whole world can see it. Save the draft, it's your property. If it is an evening, sleep over it. Next day morning, come back. If you're still as angry as you are, go ahead and send it. It's worth it. But after some time, after a couple of hours, or after a day, if you feel, "Oh no, I was too harsh or not worth it, let it be. Why do I need to wash my dirty linen in public?" If such a thing comes through, no, don't write that email. If you ask me, it is not worth writing an angry email, because at the end of it, if you see the email after 3 months or 6 months, you are the one who's going to sit and regret over it. So never ever write an email in anger. So when in anger, when you're feeling angry, I can't stop you from feeling angry. But if you're feeling angry, go ahead and draft the email, save it. Otherwise, just don't write it. There's another trick to it. Some of us are very low on our controls. So if you draft an email, you can't control yourself from sending it. In such a case, take a notepad and write the email what you would write and keep it over there. Because while writing physically with hand, it so happens that the body exerts little more, and after some time you will stop feeling so miserable and you feel little okay. And when you transfer that content onto the mail browser, you are bound to tone it down quite a bit. It has worked for quite a few people I've trained earlier or taught earlier, and I'm 100% sure it'll work for you too. On this note, I think we got a question coming. Let me take a look at it. Okay. Praveen has got another very interesting question. What about using short form in mail body? Yeah, I deliberately avoided this as one of the many points I could not bring into the first seven. Short forms are always best avoided in email. Like you see you later becomes C space U space LTR. No, don't do that, because there is a very high possibility of miscommunication, because you're writing a short form, the other person might not understand a short form, right? I'll give you a very classic example. A gentleman wrote a mail to one of my team members sometime back. The team member joined recently, and the gentleman wrote a mail. Can you develop an e-learning program for she training? Okay, SHE training. Now, what was understood here was training women, but what actually the gentleman was meaning was safety, health, and environment training. Zameen asman ka farak hai. Any abbreviation, any short forms could be dangerous. Try and avoid it. What if it demands? Well, a short form is never demanded at any point of time. A short form is always a choice. Why we make the choice? We make the choice only because we don't want to type so much. Short forms arrived out of SMS, the texting world, not out of email. Because the email, your entire keypad is in front of you. Whatever you can write in short form, you can punch in two more lines. There's no harm in it. You can happily do it. What about using smiles in email? Now, this is a query by Gopinath. Gopinath, there is no harm in using smiles in email, and emoticons, as the word is used. They're called emoticons because they're used to express emotions which otherwise you can't express it. However, use discretion in using emoticons, because if the other person is in a comfortable rapport with you where you can use an emoticon, feel free to use it. But suppose I'm writing a mail to the managing director of a company and I use an emoticon, and I'm the HR manager, uh, the MD might not take it very nicely. He might take it very casually. So when sure, go ahead and do it. Okay, Durga has got a very interesting question. Subject line doubt, can brackets be used? No, avoid brackets in subject line, because any special symbols are best avoided. They could lead to spam. Brackets, star marks, hash marks, backslash, slash, they are not required to be used. And as such, there is always a better way to put a subject line without a bracket. Hyphen is the max I suggest you can use it. Okay, Praveen again. The demand was, the query was about the anger mail. How much ever a situation demands, Praveen, how much ever situation demands, never write an angry mail. If you really really want to take it out, pick up the phone, take it out, finish it off, and write a mail as discussed over the phone. Kindly look into the matter, and the matter is closed. That's simple. So if you really want to get into a personal duel with a person, if it's required kind of a thing, whatever it is, I don't know how it can be required, go ahead and do it verbally over the phone, but not on the mail. Fantastic. Now, on this note, we have come to the end of the line, and this is where the end is. So, it was, I hope, a very useful webinar for you. And my intention was to cover a few points, which are like at least about 7 points here. At least 7 points, which are very critical, very important, very useful, and very simple. And I hope you have benefited from it. And just giving you a little rider on that, next week we are launching our game-based learning on email communication and all the other topics also. The entire thing is going to go gamified. So if you are looking forward to any game-based learning, some of it is totally free, some of it is subscribed. We'll be sending you mailers with the links to that. Feel free to enjoy the experience, send us a feedback. We intend to make it very, very useful, enjoyable for you. And we keep doing webinars every fortnight. We'll post you with the emails. Kindly give us a feedback, and we look forward to seeing you in our future emails too. And before I close for the day, there are a couple of queries which I would like to answer. I think there are some queries coming still. Let me answer them before I close. Is regards necessary? Durga, regards is always necessary, maybe not exactly as regards as a word, which means before you close it, you need to close it in a particular fashion. You can say regards, you can say thank you can write any other word, but regards is the most commonly accepted word which says, okay, my mail has ended now, I'm going ahead with my signature and thank you. So regards is always more or less necessary. Okay. Richa has got a very interesting point here. Can we have a recap on all the 7 points? Sure, Richa. We'll surely give you a recap in the next 2 minutes. Let me answer all the questions and then I'll go for a recap immediately. Perfect. I think the queries are through. Let's run through the recap as fast as we can. I'll take another 2 minutes of your time. Okay, here we go. And for those of you who missed out or it was a little heavy, the first point, first mistake is improper subject line. Never ever use an improper subject line. We covered a few points, I'm skipping them. Second, the tone of the message. Make a good subject line, maintain a normal balanced tone. Never use a tone which you tend to regret later on. Never use capitals. Maintain a balanced tone. If you want to feel nasty, do it in person, not on the email. Third point, not including email thread in the reply is a very big mistake. If you are talking the same subject over more than 3 or 4 emails, include the thread, always mandatory. But if the subject has changed, write a fresh email. Do not go ahead with the same thing. Fourth one, reply all is a nuisance. Try and avoid it. If there's no reason to mark a reply all, don't. And if you have to mark a reply all, ensure that all names have not gone into the to section, but they've gone into the CC section. Also, when CCing to the world, don't CC to everybody. You should know whom you're CCing to, why you're CCing to. If there's no reason for the person to be in the CC, it's FYI, that's for your information. Do not CC the person. Sixth point, not proofreading. This is the biggest crime we can commit. Writing an email, not reading it, and sending it. If you don't think it's worth reading it, it's not worth being read by the other person either. And if you made a silly mistake, you had it. Last and most important point, if angry, do not email. Why? Because anger in email can stay forever. Your anger might subside, but the email is there even beyond our lives. So when in angry, if you want to really fight with the person, go and fight in person, but not over the email. Never express anger over email at all. Not worth it. These were the 7 key pointers we had covered today, and I hope it was an interesting and enjoyable session. And I look forward to seeing you all in my future webinars too. Thank you very much. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.